Welcome to the first Ain't I a Woman Conference. This conference is dedicated to women in our community that have been impacted by Corey based on their having to do something with the criminal justice system and their children. We are here today to talk about the women that have been able to not allow the Corey to define who they are. We want to hear their story. But most importantly, today we are here to talk about the women, mothers that have not been able to move beyond the shadow and the perils of the ramifications of being victimized and then incarcerated. There are a lot of mental health challenges that go with being a mother who has a Corey. Further, there's a lot to say about the children, the ones that go to school and that says that education is not important. Mothers being traumatized still because they went in and come out almost the same way as they were when they went in. And that's a public safety issue. And it needs to be in the right perspective, in the right paradigm. We began to strategize around the importance of solutions. Based on our experiences that we want to share today, we want to talk to you, and we want you to talk to us about what you think, what you've been working with, and what your experience has been. And I'm quite sure it's been rather frustrating. You know, I go over to the Roxbury Court, and I got to say something. You know, the courthouse has become the largest youth development center in the city of Boston. We have kids going into the courthouse who can't even read the court papers when they're given their court papers. They take their court papers and throw them on the ground, and later on, not knowing when their court date is, they get picked up again for not going to court. And a lot of them go into courtrooms without guardians or parents. They just go in and the judge say, "Where's your mother? Where's your father?" They say, "I don't know." So let's talk about some things, and let's hear some things. And again, this is the first step to the public safety, to empower our women, to educate our women and our men, and also to acknowledge the work that other organizations such as Boston Workers Alliance, founded by City Councilor Chuck Turner, who's here, to document the need for this work. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the conference.
My name is Alveda Haynes, and I am here as a representative for Boston University School of Public Health. I work in the practice office there as a practice program coordinator, as well as a community liaison. It really is my privilege to be a part of this organizing body for an issue that do it in a way that is respectful for everyone. We have a panel of experts. We have a young woman who's here with us, Miss Sade Rollins. She's a piece of fruit that just fell straight off the tree and didn't even roll. She's a clone of her mother. So Sade, we're going to ask you to come forward and to really start this conference for us with the wonderfully creative energy that we can all go forward for the rest of the day and celebrate.
Thank you for that. It is Sade Ruffin, but I understand it's misspelled in the agenda. So the piece that I'm going to speak to you guys about today is Ain't I a Woman? And it was made famous by Sojourner Truth. She spoke at a women's conference in Ohio in 1851. And what it does is it speaks to her doing things that people didn't want her to do, and her going places that people didn't necessarily want her to go. And I think that is relevant to today, this month, and in our lives. And so I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed it when I first read it. Well, children, with all this racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think's between the Negroes of the South and the women of the North all talking about rights, these white men gonna be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there said that women's supposed to be helped in the carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. But ain't nobody ever helped me into no carriage or over mud puddles or gave me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could have me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's voice, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this thing? Intellect. Yeah, that's it, honey. Now, tell me, what's that got to do with women's rights and Negroes' rights? If my cup holds but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then that man in the black there, he say that women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Men had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn this world upside down all alone, then these women together ought to be able to turn it back and make it right side up again. And nowadays asking to do it, and the men better let them. So, obliged for hearing me, and old Sojourner Truth ain't got nothing more to say. Thank you.
Ain't she a woman? Thank you so much, Sade. That was beautiful. We need to allow that message. We need to allow that energy to carry us, because if one woman can turn the world upside down again, I know we can straighten it out. So as we move into our morning, we have our guest speaker. And we're going to ask Amani to please come forward. Our speaker this morning is Miss Nia Amani. She's the founder of Sisterhood on the Move.
I have an introduction that I have for myself. I've done a lot of things, worked really hard, and it's really nice to have done things, but there's another way that I define myself. So, my name is Nia Imani, one black woman born in Albany, Georgia. But you see, it's just a bat of the eye from the Nile and across the way from Kenya, Albany is. One black woman whose spirit has been around for quite a long time. The drums of Africa still beat in my heart. The rhythm of the beat vibrates from the soles of my feet. I put my hand in the almighty hand, trusting and embracing all of this with faith, knowing that I will not, he will not, you will not, we will not move until we are all able to prove our worth. One black woman whose spirit has been around for quite a long time. When women are released from prison, it is likely they will face multiple barriers to reunifying with their families, successfully re-entering into their communities and achieving self-sufficiency. They may find it hard to find jobs, receive government benefits, and get affordable housing or secure government benefits. Also, secure treatment for substance abuse or mental illness on a continued basis. Lastly, these mothers may encounter problems seeing their children or gaining their custody because of a court decision. Women with criminal records may not be as attractive to prospective employers as those without records. So where do they go from there? There's frustration, depression, low self-esteem, panic attacks, PTSD, layers of depression, and spiritual depletion. Many of our sisters were more victims than perpetrators. This law applies to all states unless the state legislature elects to modify or opt out of the plan. Women who are ex-offenders may require substance abuse treatment or mental health services before they are ready to seek employment. Due to many budgetary cutbacks and priorities for budgetary items, many women programs are being terminated, adding additional stress. Again, I ask you, where do we go from here? I can go on and on about the dilemma. However, I'm not going to continue to talk to you about the challenges because there are some of you who have experienced this firsthand. And there are some of you who have service individuals who have had that experience. Our main goal today is to talk about solutions to plan how we can together move the paradigm from a diachronic approach to helping these mothers and their children to an infrastructure designed by us that will not preclude dignified and professional care and services for mothers living with Cories and their children. We need agencies to understand that Cories create a great barrier for women to be a productive citizen in society. So they said to me, that what they did was they gave me a sheet of paper, and on the sheet of paper it had, you know in Charlie Brown, the little one that has his thumb in his mouth? What's his name? Linus. So on the bottom of the paper it said, God does not make dirt. And at that time I had an aha moment. You know, it might be small to you, but the moment I had was, okay, God does not make dirt. He does make dirt, but he really doesn't. You know, you're not dirt. But then I began to recognize all the beautiful things that our Creator has made. And I look around me and I'm like, okay, all right. God doesn't make dirt, okay? So, and I'm at a higher conscious level than that, so I'm not that. And I wanted to change the way I felt about myself. So this individual said to me, what I want you to do is I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to tell yourself that you love yourself. And I was like, is he joking? Look in the mirror, that's corny. I'm not gonna look in the mirror. So when I got, I said, okay, whatever. You know, when you get home by yourself, and then you start thinking about things, you say, okay, let me go try to look in the mirror. And I looked in the mirror and I couldn't tell myself I loved myself. As a matter of fact, I broke down. And so what I did was the next time I said it, but I stuttered, and then the next time I said it, and then the next time it was like, okay, I love you, I really love you, and then it was like, okay, I really love you, and then I said it until I felt it. And so that's what you got to do. You got to say it until you feel it, because once you feel it and you know how to feel it, you'll be able to give it. And then you'll be able to see it, because there are some people out there who say they love you or want to attach themselves to the word, but they don't know how to love. But because you love yourself, you'll be able to recognize it. The other principle is honesty, self-assessment. These women have never been given help, not really any help with their issues. But by them being honest, it allowed themselves to see them exactly where they're at. So they can look at themselves and take an honest assessment and say, where am I going? What do I want? And if I don't know where I'm going, let me ask somebody to help me out. And also, not only for the women, but for ourselves, just to take an honest look at where we at. Not a judgment, not to criticize ourselves and judge ourselves, but just to see where we're at, where we want to go. Integrity, standing in the truth of who you are, having a voice. Speaking the truth of who you are, where you are. Being able for also with women with Cories and their children, being able to ask for services that you need and not being afraid and not being ashamed. I'm entitled. I'm entitled to these things, and I need these things, and asking for help. Compassion, empathy for self. Seeing the loving essence in yourself. There are some times when an individual does something, we're quick to call our names, call ourselves names. The latest thing is, and I think some people, they think it's funny, they'll say, you stupid, you stupid. You know, and I know, like, there was back in the day when you said that someone took that personally, but I see now there's people who joke around in a jokingly way and use it as a joke. But I just want you to know that words are very powerful. They're very, very powerful. So the vibration of any word can have an effect on you. Even though you say, well, I don't mean it that way, it is what it is and it means what it means. So it's just to be very conscious of the words that we use when we talk about ourselves and we talk about someone else. And the truth is we are divine. We are a divine source of life and light. And we are connected to that divine source of life. And don't ever forget that, how connected we are. We are connected to something so powerful. I cannot emphasize that. I cannot keep hammering that in, that we are divine. There is always a solution, an answer to everything. And what we need to remember is that that answer is within ourselves. So what I'm asking you today is that let us come together to face and overcome the challenges in place to help these mothers and children and even ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. As I was saying, fruit that doesn't fall far from the tree. Sade, Nia, they're an awesome duo, aren't they? Us, them, we, they, all of us together in one room. Whatever your issue, whatever your concern, it's my issue, my concern, and vice versa. When we talk about the impact of Corey, there's no such thing as one person having a Corey and one person being affected or impacted by it. And it's recorded, it's facts, it's figures, and at the end of the day, all of that matters. So for as much as our stories matters about what's happening and how you're affected, we also need the recorded side of it, the statistical side of it, because that's what you bring when you're trying to move others to action. Today we have with us representatives from the Boston Workers Alliance. We have Judith Foster, who is the chair of the Corey Committee. And thank you to Aaron Tanaka, whom we know has done an incredible work around Corey and pressing for Corey reform. So thank you so much for your work, Aaron. And thank you for introducing us to Judith. And Judith, we'd like to invite you to come to the mic now. Faces. So Judith, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. And I'd just like to thank Haywood Fennell Sr., Alveda Haynes, Kimberly Sutherland, Nia Imani, and Karen Miller. They're all the planners, and thank you for having me, and thank you for including me. Okay? Well, as you know, Corey reform affects all of us in some way, shape, or form. It affected me 20 years ago in a horrible way, in that it was my boyfriend. And so I had no idea that I had a Corey, in that I was never arrested or anything like that. Went to court a couple of times, but I was never charged, I thought. And subsequently, having gone through the hospital and some other things that I had gone through with this gentleman, I realized, coming back to Boston after losing my job at Senator John Kerry's office and applying for a job at the Little Home for Little Wanderers, I was told that I have a Corey. To my surprise, okay, I have a Corey, well, let me find out about this. This was my first thought. So when I got the report and I looked at it, it was from 20 years ago, the incident that I had in mind. I was charged with everything that he was charged with, and subsequently had to deal with it. I had it sealed and all these other things. But prior to that, I had no clue that I had a Corey, because I was under the conception that in order for you to have a Corey, you have to be arrested, or you would have to go to jail and have served time. But no, the only thing that requires your having a query is for your name to have been brought to the judicial system. If you're accused of something, somebody goes to court and says, well, Judith did this and Judith did that. That's all it takes for you to have a query. And then you'll have to answer to those charges, whether they're false or proven to be true. And in my case, I knew none of these things in that I was a teenager when this happened to me. I was out of my realm, had no idea what I was dealing with. But I've learned and educated myself on this issue, and I sealed my record. And so it goes back a little ways. After sealing my record, I called Chuck Turner's office because I was still unable to get a job. And I said to Chuck, this is what's going on. I worked for Senator John Kerry's office for all these years. I've done all this volunteer work for Mayor Menino and others. I can't find a job. I don't know what's wrong. This is really debilitating. Chuck says, well, you know, Judy, this is a prevalent problem. I have a place for you to go. You may not be able to find a job right away, but it can help you, and you can help others in the same situation, which was the Boston Workers Alliance. I met with Aaron, and our work started from there. Well, my work with that organization started from there. And since then, we've been advocating on behalf of the unemployed, underemployed, and even people who have robbed banks and done things that they ought not do. But we're here to say we all make mistakes. And we all deserve a second chance, sometimes third and fourth chances. Because who are we to judge? We've all broken the law in some way, shape, or form. Some of us just have not gotten caught. But for those who've gotten caught, we would like to be looked at as the human beings that we are, and given that chance to say, okay, I made a mistake, and allow me to redeem myself and participate in the pursuit of happiness, which was promised to me by our government. And it's the same government that wants to take this promise away that they had given to you. So I'm here to say we will not stand for this, and we want changes done, because this is affecting not only our teenagers, but even our retirees who come down with illnesses where your Social Security benefits may not cover. And you think, okay, I'll go out and get a part-time job to make up for this. But if you were 20, 15 years old and made a mistake and you had gone to jail, or you have a query, you've gone to court, that may be a barrier for you getting that part-time job at 65 and even 70 years old. Can you imagine that? After 60, maybe 50 years being held accountable for something that you paid for. Yes, you made the mistake and you did the wrong thing, but you went to jail, or you did the probation, or you did the community service. Now, why should you then be asked to pay again? It's unconscionable, and I think that we all in this room, and everyone that we know, we should go, when we leave here, tell our friends, family members, and associates and neighbors that they ought to call their reps and their senators. The senators have it right. They voted they passed a bill this November that would reform query, but it's the House of Representatives who are holding it up. If you don't have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. This young lady wants to know, what's the process of getting your query sealed or your record sealed? Well, there are different ways to go about doing this. For someone who's had their case as old as mine, what you can do is you can either call or write the probation commission, state your case, and they will mail you out information in the application that you'll have to fill out. And also you'll have to know what your charges are, and they can help you with that as well, because they have the record. You'll have to prove who you are, and they'll send you out the information for you to attest to it. Another way is you can go to either one of the BWA or any one of our sister organizations. We have the forms for you to fill out to request your record, to see what's on it, and then you can determine by checking it to see how long the charges, the waiting time, if you've exceeded the waiting period or you're within that range, then that would determine where you go from there. But if you fall within the range where you can seal your record, you fill out the information on the form, send it back to the probation commission, and they take it from there, and they'll notify you once the process is complete. Well, thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Good information? Move forward in our program. I'd like to just very quickly not introduce, but just simply identify our panel members. We have some women who are here to share with you information about resources and services that are available. They are going to help us to understand how to access those resources and services, and they are an absolute blessing to this community. So thank you so much for being here this morning. Deborah Smith-Presley from the Garrett Presley Autism Research Center. We have Ruth Rollins from the Elizabeth Stone House. Good morning, Ruth. We have Helen Creedle from the Urban League. She's a community educator. And you have met Sister Nia Imani. I would like to invite each of you to just take 5 minutes or so to tell us a bit about who you are.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Haywood for Now, for inviting me to this conference. And I would like to say to you that I stand and sit right now humbly in recognition of Sojourner Truth, who is truly a great hero in my eyes. And I have tried to follow her footsteps. I run the Garrett Presley Autism Resource Center. It's located in Mattapan, which is my home office. And we run programs out of the Dorchester YMCA and the Mildred Ave Community Center, and also the Mattapan Library. The name of the center is Garrett Presley. Garrett Presley is my son. He has autism. He is right now age 20 years old. He was diagnosed with autism at the age of 5. And as I sit here and present to you the Autism Center, I want to tell you that I am speaking for the single mothers, the grandmothers, the foster parents, and the guardians that are taking care of children and young adults with autism. First, I want to note to you that the Garrett Presley Autism Resource Center is the only urban center in the city of Boston. When I received my education, I traveled to Newton and Waltham and Wellesley, down the Cape, to gain knowledge and information about autism. It afforded me the opportunity to place my son in an appropriate school setting. He was in an excellent school. He was receiving a wide variety of services. And also, we began to educate our community about autism. I went to see Representative Chuck Turner, also Gloria Fox and Charles Yancey, and I can go on, and they said to me, Deborah, you're the first parent that has ever come to us. So as a part of the Autism Center, we also teach leadership. We teach leadership to parents about how to connect with their political community, how to speak to them, how to write letters, how to approach them. And ongoing with this situation is that we teach social skills 2 days a week, Tuesday evening from 6 to 8, and Saturday from 12 to 3. When I leave here now, I will go to the Dorchester YMCA to teach the SASSY program, SASSY. It stands for Successful Advocacy and Social Skills for Youth. We teach a variety of areas because what I found from my son Garrett is that Garrett needs to learn to participate and move within his own community. That means going to the movies, going to restaurants, going to the local gas station, to the car wash. All the things that we do in the community, they need to do also. Now, we are lucky in a sense that we live in a community that is close-knit. So the neighbors on both sides of where I live pay attention to Garrett. They treat Garrett just like another individual with interest. And so Garrett is very fortunate. If he did wander out of the yard, which wasn't too often, a neighbor would call and let us know, or come and get us, or come and get him. And those are similar things that happened back in the day. We need to get back to this. I just want to quickly say to you, when we teach social skills, we teach them how to set a table, how to go for a job interview, how to wear the appropriate clothing, how to love yourself, how to respect yourself, how to respect others, because I find that they need to model one another. I just want to give you a website. Our website is www.garc.ws. I can be reached at 617-216-1676. And there's just so many burdens that parents put up with, and going through the Corey and the sorry, and all of the heavy loads that can be placed on a family. When you have a child with a special needs, it's an additional burden.
Good morning, my name is Ruth Rollins. I'm from Elizabeth Stonehouse. And I guess the piece that I wanted to talk about was that I am that person that lived beyond the Corey, that, you know, currently I give back working with the women and children at Elizabeth Stonehouse. And how important it is. I think, you know, I commend everyone for being here, because a lot of times we talk about it, but we really don't do the action to what needs to be done. One of my specialties is substance abuse, and some years ago, when I had got out of treatment, there was no services. You know, I am that person that struggled with mental health, substance abuse, and it did affect my children, you know, but I didn't know that there were services and people out there to help me. And if there's one thing that I could really say here today, is just advocating for the women and children, because a lot of people don't even know that there's services out there. You know, I am a little bit more fortunate that I didn't go through so many obstacles, but there's a lot of people that are being released from prison today that don't have those services. At the Elizabeth Stonehouse, one of the things that we do is that we help women reunify with their children. We have a self-esteem group, we have a domestic violence group, we have a substance abuse group, and a lot of times that a lot of our women are released from prison. There's a waiting list to get into our program, but even if you don't get into our program, we have community-based groups that you're able to come. And one of the things that we're known for, that we help a lot of families with, is reunifying with their children. You know, even if they don't have custody of their children, you know, the DCF work is able to let mom have the first part of the group with her by herself, and then they drop the children off with them, and they're able to do the group with mom at our shelter. For our people, you know, and let them know that there's another way, because you get discouraged. You get discouraged and you give up. And I think it's so important that we're sitting here today, you know, and if nothing else, I think that we just need to continue to pass the word and let people know that we believe that they believe, and it does get better.
It's written that 3 or more gathered in my name. And there's 30 of us in this room. And that's a very powerful statement. And before I get into me, which is not really that important in terms of what I do and how I do it, that's not the important thing here. The critical importance, and you all should stand up and give yourselves a standing ovation, is that you got up. I appreciate you. And I'll give you a brief background about me. And my energy is question and answers. You can ask me anything, and in one form or another, I do have an answer. I have been training to be a civil rights warrior for well over 60 years. I work with 250 men and women who are 55 plus. And so all of the things that each person has spoken about today, starting with Sade Ruffin, Judy, our moderator, our panelist, and Haywood, and City Councilor Chuck Turner.
My name is Nia Imani. You heard my story. I'm not going to go into that. And I have a nonprofit organization that's called Sisterhood on the Move. And I formed this organization in 1996. And it's a nonprofit organization. We facilitate the rites of passage for young girls. And the reason I started this organization is because when I'm not different from anybody out here. I had a lot of challenges in my life. And I got in a lot of trouble because I didn't know a lot of things. And so I was one of those little hard-headed teenagers that, used to make up stuff. Or I wouldn't go to an adult for information. I would go to one of my friends who gave me the wrong information. But because it was my friend, they had the right information, then I would get in trouble. And having that knowledge is very, very powerful. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to create this rites of passage program to educate our young people, to have mentors, or to take a young lady from A to Z about everything that she needs to know. I can't give her the experience, but one thing I can do is give her the knowledge. And so I always say to young people, it's one thing when you don't have the information and you do something, it's okay. It's another thing when you have the information. I would say to them, if you want to use a substance, find out what's in it. Find out what you're putting inside of yourself. If you want to do something else, find out the information. And then maybe you'll think twice before you go ahead and do it. Using a substance, and now she's in college. She's in her second year in college, and she comes back and help me, because what I do with my young ladies, once they graduate, I have them come back and help the other young ladies that are in there. So,
Great. Thank you so much, ladies.
And the panelists are, to my extreme left, State Senator Sonia Chang Diaz. Next to her, Ayanna Presley, our first African-American woman city councilor. Next to her, Marilyn Anderson Chase, Undersecretary of Children and Families for the state, and Mary Elizabeth Heffernan, Secretary of Public Safety. Now this morning, yes, give them some applause. Yes. And this morning there were workshops, and they talked about CORI, and they talked about a number of things. So this afternoon, the panelists are going to talk about CORI as it affects women who have children and how they can bring resources from their particular vantage spot to bear on helping women who have CORIs, who have children, and also how it can, in the broadest sense, impact the community, what they hope to do. So who wants to start first?
Respectfully, Senator, because I'm going to give you a plug and tell you that... Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. I take my orders from the pro here, thank God. My name is Mary Beth Heffernan, and I'm honored to serve as Secretary of Public Safety and Security in the Patrick Murray administration. I'm also a proud graduate of Girls Latin School, a post I share with my moderator here, and I'm delighted to be here today. And I know that there's been a lot of talk this morning about some of the things that we hopefully are doing to improve the way that people can access CORI, bringing the discussion around CORI and criminal information and criminal records to a level of interest for everybody. I think the governor's approach to rectifying criminal records and the barriers that they throw up to many of our either ex-offenders or people that have had criminal records, his approach is one that is a novel one. I think that we found by looking at this issue, a lot of it was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. How do we fix a system that's basically completely broken? And the governor, we need to change this system entirely. You can't understand whatever records you get. You're the employer or you're the recipient. You can't read the language. It's either in gibberish or it's in language that's not understood by the common person. It's sometimes not accurate, which requires people to go on a bureaucratic hunt to try and figure out how to get it accurate. And the way that it has been set up as a barrier, the time frame is too long. House of Representatives now. I can speak more specifically about the specifics of that bill, but I do want to give my other panelists a chance to make some introductory remarks.
We continue to be proud of some of the substance abuse services that we continue to provide. The fact that we're able to continue to provide residential services for women and children. The fact that we continue to have some family residential programs for over 107 families who may have multiple children up to the age of 18. There are a number of things that we still have in place. We recognize that it's not enough, that we need to do more, and that there is much greater demand that we can afford to meet right now.
I want to bring it back to this question of what can we do? Because there's lots of things that we're doing, and it's I think our first instinct to talk about what can we do, right? And what are the things that we're working on? But the larger question is, what can we do, right? All of us, because we must reelect this governor. That is a very specific thing that we can do to make sure that we are getting the best we can in terms of substance abuse and other. And I just want to get a sense of where we are. How many people in this room registered to vote? Wonderful. I'm just checking to see if there are any hands that aren't up. If you are not registered, get thee to a post office or to a library and get your voter registration form. And don't just register, but show up in September at the primaries, show up in November at the general election. If your community hasn't already had its local party caucuses, get to your party caucuses. Complete your census forms. Complete your census forms so that we can get those federal dollars in. And don't let it stop just at the ballot box, right? That's not victory just when we get someone into office like Ayanna or like the governor or like the president or like yours truly. You've got to make sure that we're still hearing from you and that other legislators are still hearing from you. I know issues. So please be active. Let us know what you see, what's working right so we can fortify it, as the counselor said, what's not working so that we know that it needs fixing and what your ideas are for fixing. It does make a difference. It absolutely does. So there are a lot of different ways that each person in this room can push for these solutions that we all agree that we need.
And just to that point, and I am struck by the fact that although our communities have the greatest need, we have the smallest number of representation of mentors of color, which is why I'm supporting the mass mentoring campaign to recruit 1,000 mentors of color. So I think in terms of early intervention and prevention and what's cost effective, mentoring is something you need to look at, because you can pay $1 now or $3 later. So I would encourage all of you to be a mentor. And you don't have to be a big sister or be with an organization. Just take an interest in a young person, because there's no lack of intellect or talent amongst our young people, but there is, I think, a lack of aspiration and a lack of ambition and a lack of direction. And mentors can inform that and help young people to develop that roadmap to ensure that they're making more responsible choices that don't lead them to a life of irresponsible and destructive choices.
I say a giant amen to what Councilor Press. I mean, mentoring. Schools are going to be the last in line for cuts because we know that is square one, ground zero when it comes to prevention and making sure that we don't even get young people into the stream for being involved with the public safety system, involved with the judicial system. So education. One other thing I just want to add quickly. I think CORI reform is a prevention measure, because we are by doing CORI reform, we're preventing recidivist crime, and that is the whole point. They can write their legislators, write a letter to the editor, drag their parents to the polls, put the voter registration form in front of their mom and dad. I can't vote, mom and dad. You got to do it for me. And young people can be such compelling spokespersons for why CORI reform matters and why it will make our communities safer and why it will make their lives better.
I hope you all gained something from this. Unfortunately, we have to wind it down because the program isn't quite over this afternoon, but I want to thank the Senator, the City Councilor, the Secretary, and the Undersecretary for their contributions this afternoon. I hope all of you learned something. You know who they are, so you can follow up and say, hey, I heard you. I want you to help me.
Where our kids cannot read. Kids go to court and they get a court paper and they can't read the court paper. They ball it up and they throw it on the ground, and next thing you know, they picked up because they didn't go to court. Kids go to court without their parents and the judge asks them. I'm sitting in courtrooms because the courtrooms today are the largest youth development entity in our community. I don't see any of our leaders that call themselves leaders in the community going into the courthouses to see what's happening to our young people. And I'm talking about females and males. Our kids can't read. There are a lot of things our kids can't do. And this is one of the things that we need to look at when we begin to evaluate this program, because we're going to bring back a report, and we want to thank our panel for coming in. You know, Corey, another thing, yes, this is the other thing I want to tell you, and I spoke to the counselor about this. Corey is not a legislatively solvable issue if you take morality out of it. We need our religious leaders. We need to hear from the cardinal. We need to hear from the rabbis. We need to hear from all these religious people at one time standing together and say, hey, everybody makes a mistake, but they should not be held hostage to their past. I made not a mistake, I made several mistakes. And I'm here today with an esteemed panel. I'm involved in my community because I refuse to allow my Corey to be my story. I made mistakes, and I used those mistakes to measure my movements in the community. Today I'm credible. Today I can stand before you and say that I'm involved in this prison, going in and talking to these people so that they can see what happens when you change your thinking and have some support. I want to thank you for being a part of this panel today. Thank you very much. I want to thank my panel, and right now I want to bring our awardees forward, because I want you to know that Katie Portis, this lady, this woman, was a pioneer in putting together housing programs, substance abuse programs for our women. She did it because she believed in the dignity of her people, and she's continued to support without waving a flag in the air of what she's doing in the community. And I just want to take this time, Katie, to give you this plaque. And it says here, Ain't I a Woman Conference presented to Katie Portis for your sharing your pioneering vision to help women. Thank you so much, Katie. You want to say a few words?
Thank you so much. I can think of a whole bunch of women just as deserving to be standing here as I am today. I just did a radio show yesterday at Touch, and I got a call. It was a call-in. I got a call from Orlando, Florida, that one of Women Ain't Women, who graduated Women Inc. and went to Cambridge College. Then she went back home to Florida, got a PhD, and started a women's program down there. So I say that to say, when you help a woman, you help a family. When you help a woman, you help the community. No disrespect to men, but for whatever reason, we have the influence with the children. When we talk about prevention, prevention starts at home. But first, we got to service the families. And we have to give them a home. Okay? So when you help a woman, you help a family, you help a community. Thank you so much for this award.
Hold up. We want to bring the representatives from the Elizabeth Stone House. We have here for the Elizabeth Stone House, plaque reads, for providing a safe place where women can rebuild their lives. These women do amazing work. You know, when you're down and you've been beat down, when you don't think you have any more hope, and all you had was a string of dope, and somebody gave you a rope of hope, that's the Elizabeth Stone House. We want to give this to Ruth Rollins and her constituent, Erin Miller. They're here today to receive this award. It's a wonderful people. I know she.
Thank you so much. My name is Erin Miller, and I'm with the Elizabeth Stone House with Ruth Rollins and Lila Buckland as well. Thank you so much to everybody here for giving us this award. Elizabeth Stone House is a really wonderful organization that provides housing and community opportunities for women who have been who have CORIs, who have histories of substance abuse, histories of mental illness, domestic violence, other traumas in their past. And we work really hard to connect all of those issues. We realize that you can't isolate women and take apart the different aspects of their lives, that we try to work holistically with women and give them any of the support that they need. So we can't do it without all of you, though, and we really appreciate this. So
first, we want to thank the Black-Owned Community Center for making this space available for us. We also want to acknowledge the young ladies that are volunteers. We want them to come down. Young ladies from the volunteers. We want to thank the Department of Corrections for being here today. Thank you, Michelle, for coming down. We really appreciate it. State Senator, you gave us a lot to think about in terms of how we keep the governor in. We want to thank you for that. And to City Councilor Ayanna Presley, we're in love. Come there. Y'all come forward. We want to thank you so much for your participation in this conference today. We really appreciate it. And what is your name?
Raven Jackson.
Raven Jackson.
Rakia Dixon.
Raven Jackson and Nakia Dixon. Rakia Dixon. Let's give them a big hand, everyone. And again, we want to thank Sarah Ann Shaw for being our moderator today. Thank you so much, Sarah. We really appreciate it. I hope he was able to do that. Again, we want to thank our planners, Karen Miller. Hold up. Karen Miller, who did such an absolutely outstanding job on our program booklet and our food and our logistics. Karen Miller and her organization, Karen Miller, the Boston Society of Vulcans. How about that? Did I get it right? And we also want to thank Avita Hayes from the Boston University School of Public Health. Absolutely outstanding. And Nia Amani and her daughter. All right. Sade, she came in and she made it happen. Sade Ruffin, Columbia University, everyone. We're very proud of her. Thank you, Sade. And let me see. Well, Stanley Jones Clean State Project, that's us. You know, we've been around 12 years, and we're not just talking about Corey. We're talking about self-help. We have Leonard Brown, our researcher. He's in the audience. Let's give him a hand. Finally, we want to thank our event planner, everybody. Can she just come down front, event planner? Please come down. We want to thank her. And also, before we say a few words to her, we want to thank Sister Sandra Muhammad and Nation of Islam for being here today. We want to thank the two sisters that are in the house today. Thank you so much for participating in our program today, Sister Sandra. Our sister is a beautiful, spirited sister, and we really appreciate what you've done to make this event happen. We thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Did you want to say anything? She can't talk. Wow. Here's a woman that can't talk. My goodness gracious. Well, let me just say something to everybody, and they're listening to her. Thank you so much, Katie. We want to thank everybody for a wonderful conference, and believe it, you're going to hear from us again. Thanks again, and God bless everybody. Project Assert's in the house. Don't forget Project Assert. All right, thank you.
My name is Chuck Turner. I'm District 7 City Councilor. District 7 includes Roxbury, Lower Roxbury, parts of the Fenway, Dorchester, South End. The hidden tragedies of Corey, and it's the reason why I'm here today and why I think this conference is so important. One of the hidden aspects of the whole struggle around Corey is the effect to earn an income that can make her feel good about herself, enable her to feel good about what she's doing, not only for herself, but for her family. If she doesn't have those supports in, then it's not only her life that's being destroyed, but it's also the life of the children, because they feed off of her energy and at the base. And that's why, again, I think this conference, Ain't I a Woman?, is so important. It's critically important that we raise the issue of how we as a society treat women, and women who are incarcerated receive the worst treatment of all.